Torque couldn't believe his rotten luck. Of all the patrol sectors in the vast Andromeda Alliance, he'd been assigned to monitor the backwater planet the locals called Earth. The assignment was widely considered punishment duty among the Zinthari fleet, a fact his commanding officer had made abundantly clear when handing him the assignment. "Congratulations, Lieutenant Kavar," Admiral Voltok had said, his four eyes narrowing with undisguised contempt. "Your remarkable talent for insubordination has earned you 6 months observing primitives who still think fossil fuels are cutting-edge technology. Perhaps the tedium will teach you some discipline." Now, 3 months into his assignment, Torque was slouched in the command chair of his single-occupant reconnaissance vessel, orbiting Earth with all stealth systems engaged. The ship, barely larger than an Earth delivery truck, contained everything needed for extended surveillance missions: sleeping quarters, nutrition synthesizer, waste recycling unit, and enough sensory equipment to monitor an entire hemisphere. "Computer status report," Torque grumbled, stretching his long, blue-scaled limbs. "All systems nominal." The ship's AI replied in its irritatingly cheerful voice. "Current location, geosynchronous orbit over the North American continent. Local time at observation point, 22:47. Atmosphérique composition inchangée. Human activity patterns consistent with previous observations." Torque rolled his eyes. Fascinating. Who would have guessed that humans would continue breathing oxygen and following their predictable routines? Truly groundbreaking surveillance work we are doing here. The ship's AI, programmed to ignore sarcasm, continued. Today's highlight: detected 17 new cat videos achieving viral status on human information networks. "Stop," Torque groaned. "Just stop. Any unusual transmissions or energy signatures? Anything remotely interesting?" "Negative, Lieutenant. All observed phenomena fall within established parameters for this species." Torque sighed and pulled up the holographic display of his current observation target, a sprawling military research facility in the desert region humans called Nevada. The Zinthari High Command had flagged this location for surveillance after detecting faint traces of advanced particle research. The fear, as always, was that humans might accidentally stumble upon faster-than-light travel principles before they were culturally mature enough to handle interstellar contact. "What are you up to down there?" Torque muttered, zooming in on the facility. Suddenly, an alert flashed across his console, an unexpected energy spike emanating from precisely the facility he was observing. Well, Torque purred, his four-fingered hand dancing across the controls. "Computer, analyze energy signature." "Working," the AI replied. "Warning, pattern matches known terrestrial technology. Preliminary analysis suggests quantum fluctuation consistent with dimensional barrier disruption." Torque's anterior spine ridges stiffened in alarm. "They're attempting interdimensional travel? Impossible. Their understanding of quantum physics is at least 3 centuries away from." Before he could finish, a blinding purple light erupted from the facility, bathing his viewport in an eerie glow. The ship's sensors screamed with alerts as space itself seemed to ripple around him. "Computer, evasive maneuver, too late." The purple light engulfed his vessel, and Torque felt the sickening sensation of reality folding around him. His last conscious thought was that Admiral Voltok would never believe his report, if he lived to write one to Dr. Jasmine Powell glared at the smoking remains of the quantum displacement array. 6 years of research, $14 billion in funding, and countless sleepless nights had culminated in this. A catastrophic failure that had blown out half the power grid in the underground facility. "Someone tell me what the hell just happened," she demanded, her voice cutting through the chaos of blaring alarms and shouting technicians. Dr. Frank Donnelly, her chief engineer, was frantically reviewing data on his tablet. "The array created the quantum bubble as designed, but something interfered. It's like we caught something in our net." "Caught something?" Jasmine repeated incredulously. "This isn't deep-sea fishing, Frank. The QDA was designed to create a stable wormhole between 2 points in our dimension, not to catch anything." "I know what it was designed to do," Frank snapped, the pressure clearly getting to him. "But look at these readings. The energy surge just before collapse. It's consistent with a mass displacement event. Jasmine was about to demand clarification when a security alert blared through her earpiece. Dr. Powell, we have a breach in Sector 7. Security cameras are down, but motion sensors detected movement inside the containment area. Lock down the entire facility, she ordered, already moving toward the security station. Nobody in or out until we figure out what's happening. As the facility's massive blast doors sealed with pneumatic hisses, Jasmine couldn't shake the feeling that her career was about to end in spectacular fashion. If the QDA had somehow damaged government property, or worse, injured personnel, there would be congressional hearings, investigations, and likely criminal charges. The security team, led by the imposing figure of Captain Marcus Reeves, assembled outside Sector 7. A dozen men and women in tactical gear, armed with everything from standard-issue sidearms to experimental sonic disruptors. Plan, Jasmine asked tersely as she arrived. Marcus checked his weapon. Simple. We go in, identify the breach, and neutralize any threat. Standard protocol says we should wait for hazmat if this is radiation-related, but given the nature of your project, no time, Jasmine agreed. Whatever's in there could be unstable. With a nod, Marcus signaled his team. The reinforced door to Sector 7 slid open, revealing the darkened laboratory beyond. Emergency lights cast red shadows across overturned equipment and shattered glass containers. And in the center of it all, a figure was rising to its feet that Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. The creature before them stood nearly 7 feet tall, with blue-scaled skin stretched over a lean, muscular frame. 4-fingered hands ended in short claws, and a series of ridges ran down its spine. But most striking were its eyes, large, luminous, and a startling shade of violet that seemed to glow in the dim light. "Holy shit," Marcus whispered, raising his weapon. "Everyone stand back. Unknown entity. Remain where you are and identify yourself." The creature blinked its strange eyes, focusing on the humans with apparent confusion. Then, to everyone's shock, it spoke in perfect English. "Well, this is awkward," it said, raising its hands in a universal gesture of surrender. "I don't suppose any of you would believe I'm just a very convincing Halloween costume." Torque hadn't expected his day to include being held at gunpoint by primitives in a secret underground laboratory, but adaptability was a core trait of Zinthri intelligence officers. The universal translator implanted at the base of his skull was working perfectly, converting his natural speech into the crude sound patterns these humans use for communication. The female human, clearly in a position of authority based on how the others defer to her, stepped forward cautiously. "What are you?" "Direct." "I appreciate that." Torque kept his posture non-threatening. "My name is Lieutenant Torque Kavar of the Zinthri Exploratory Fleet. I was passing by when your experiment created a dimensional anomaly that pulled my vessel into your facility." "Vessel?" The male human with the largest weapon looked around suspiciously. "I don't see any vessel." Torque pointed to a twisted mass of metal and crystalline components in the corner of the room. "That was my ship. Your quantum displacement technology compressed it rather impressively during transit. Excellent work. Actually, the Zinthri Science Academy would give you a commendation right before executing you for potentially destabilizing local space-time." The female leader seemed to process this information with remarkable composure. "I'm Dr. Jasmine Powell. This is Captain Reeves. You are saying you are an alien? From where exactly?" "The Zinthri Collective occupies 16 systems in what you call the Andromeda Galaxy. And yes, I'm what you would classify as an alien, though technically speaking, given that we are on your planet, I'm the alien and you are the natives." Torque allowed himself a small smile. "Semantics, I know, but precision matters in first contact scenarios." The humans exchanged glances, a mixture of disbelief, fear, and scientific curiosity evident in their expressions. "Prove it," Dr. Powell said finally. "Prove you're not some kind of experimental bioweapon or elaborate hoax." Torque sighed. "Always the same with pre-contact species. So suspicious. He reached slowly toward his neck, causing the weapons to train on him more intently. Easy now. I'm just accessing my neural interface. His clawed finger pressed against a nearly invisible seam at the base of his skull. A holographic display sprang to life before him, showing rotating star charts and data in Zinthri script. This is my mission log, tracking my observation orbit around your planet for the past 3 months. Here's your solar system, your planetary defense satellites, primitive but functional. And here, he highlighted a section of the display, is the record of the energy spike from your experiment that created the anomaly. Dr. Powell stepped closer, her scientific curiosity apparently overriding caution. That's our data. Those are our energy signatures. How did you? I have been monitoring your facility, Torque explained. Nothing personal. Standard protocol for potentially disruptive technological developments. Captain Reeves hadn't lowered his weapon. Why should we believe anything you say? For all we know, you are here to gather intelligence for an invasion. Torque laughed, a sound like stones tumbling underwater. Invade Earth? Whatever for. No offense, but your planet barely registers as a technological footnote in galactic terms. You are still burning hydrocarbons for energy and haven't even colonized your own moon properly. The Zinthri Collective has no interest in conquest. We are scientists and explorers. Then why were you spying on us? Powell demanded. Because occasionally, species like yours make unexpected leaps in technology that could pose risks. Like, accidentally creating interdimensional rifts that damage passing ships and strand their pilots in secret underground facilities? Torque gestured around theatrically, just as a hypothetical example. Dr. Powell actually smiled at that, though she quickly suppressed it. Fair point. So what happens now, Lieutenant Kavar? I assume your people will be looking for you. Torque's expression darkened. That's complicated. My mission was solo reconnaissance. Standard check-in protocol is every 2 standard cycles, what you would call weeks. It could be 10 of your days before anyone notices I'm missing. And even then, he trailed off. Even then what? Powell pressed. Even then, first contact protocols are very clear. The Zinthri do not interfere with developing civilizations. If I'm discovered here, it would be classified as a contamination event. They wouldn't extract me. They'd eliminate all evidence of contact, including us, Reeves concluded grimly. Including everyone in this facility, yes, Torque confirmed. So, I suggest we all have a very strong mutual interest in getting me off your planet before my absence is noticed. The humans exchanged loaded glances. Finally, Dr. Powell spoke. Captain, lower your weapons. I think we need to have a conversation with our visitor. As the security team reluctantly lowered their weapons, Jasmine stepped closer to Torque, studying him with intense scientific curiosity. So, alien, she said with unexpected informality, I have about 1,000 questions for you, and I have exactly one for you. Torque replied, pointing at her lower body. What exactly is that bizarre contraption strapped to your legs? Some kind of mobility enhancement? Weapon system? Reproductive display? Powell looked down at herself in confusion. These are just jeans, pants, standard human clothing. Ah, Torque nodded sagely, though clearly not understanding. And the purpose of these jeans is what exactly? Captain Reeves made a strangled sound that might have been suppressed laughter. I think we better get our guest to a secure debriefing room before this conversation gets any weirder. As they led him from the destroyed laboratory, Torque couldn't help wondering if being accidentally transported to a primitive research facility might actually be more interesting than his original assignment after all, and considerably more dangerous, i.e. the sterile interrogation room. Though the humans politely called it a debriefing chamber, Torque sat across from Dr. Powell and a growing assembly of increasingly important-looking officials. Word of his arrival had spread quickly through the facility, despite obvious attempts to contain the information. So you are telling us, said a gray-haired human who had introduced himself as Director Hammond, that advanced civilizations throughout the galaxy are aware of Earth, but choose not to contact us because we are... What exactly? Too primitive. Not primitive. Torque corrected diplomatically. Developing. There are established protocols for first contact. A species needs to achieve certain technological and sociological milestones before introduction to the wider galactic community, such as, Powell asked, sustainable fusion energy, unified planetary governance, elimination of resource-based conflicts, basic interplanetary colonization. Torque counted off on his clawed fingers. You know, the fundamentals. Hammond scoffed. And who decides these arbitrary standards? Your people. Not at all. Torque replied calmly. These standards were established by the Galactic Concord, an alliance of 73 spacefaring civilizations over 6,000 years ago. The Zenthri are merely one-member species. He leaned forward, but we are getting distracted. The immediate issue is my presence here. It represents a critical protocol violation that must be addressed before my people discover it. Director Hammond, Dr. Powell interjected. I believe Lieutenant Kavar is right. We need to focus on the immediate situation. If what he says is true, we have limited time before his absence triggers some kind of, what would you call it? Extraction mission, purification protocol, Torque corrected grimly. And it's not so much a mission as a targeted spatial reconfiguration. Essentially, this entire facility would be converted into its constituent subatomic particles. Quite elegant, really, from a purely scientific perspective. The room fell silent. You are suggesting they'd vaporize us, Captain Reeves said flatly. Torque tilted his head. Vaporization implies a change of state from solid to gas. This would be more fundamental, a complete dissolution of atomic bonds. But yes, the end result from your perspective will be similarly unpleasant. Jesus, Hammond muttered, running a hand through his gray hair. This is above my pay grade. We need to contact Washington. With respect, Director Powell countered, involving more people only increases the contamination footprint. According to our guest, that would just mean more people in the dissolution zone. Torque nodded approvingly. Your scientist grasps the situation. The fewer humans aware of my existence, the better for everyone's continued atomic cohesion. Hammond looked torn. If what you are saying is true, this is the most significant event in human history. We have confirmed the existence of intelligent extraterrestrial life. I can't just keep that to myself. Consider it a favor to your species, Torque said dryly. The ones who make first contact rarely benefit historically. Just ask the indigenous populations of your own planet how first contact worked out for them. The barb at home. Hammond fell silent, contemplating. Okay, Powell said pragmatically. Let's focus on solutions. You said your ship was compressed during transit. Can it be repaired? Torque gestured toward the twisted remains that had been brought into an adjacent laboratory. That depends on your definition of repaired. Can it be restored to functionality? No. The quantum core is fractured, and you lack the materials or technology to fix it. However, Powell prompted, the communications array is partially intact. With some modifications, I might be able to send a narrowband signal directly to my fleet commander, bypassing standard protocols. Admiral Voltok is a pragmatist. If I explain the situation privately, there's a chance he would authorize a covert extraction rather than a purification protocol. And we should trust you on this. Reeves asked skeptically. Torque spread his hands. Consider our aligned interests, Captain. I wish to return home without causing an interspecies incident that would end with my execution for protocol violation. You wish to continue existing in your current atomic arrangement. Our goals are perfectly compatible. Powell was already examining the twisted alien technology. I think I can help with the repairs. Some of these components look similar to our quantum array. The underlying principles might be compatible. Of course they are compatible, Torque said. Where do you think your scientists got the inspiration for quantum physics? We have been dropping breadcrumbs for centuries, guiding promising species toward the correct mathematical models. Are you saying aliens have been influencing human scientific development? Hammond asked incredulously. Not exactly, Torque clarified. More like nudging. A mysteriously discovered manuscript here, an unexplained insight there. We find it more productive than just handing you technologies you're not ready for. The journey matters as much as the destination. As they discussed the repair strategy, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. "What now?" Hammond demanded that a security officer burst into the room. "Sir, we have multiple breach alerts. Someone's trying to access the facility from the surface. They're using high-level government clearance codes, but not through official channels." "Who?" "Unknown, sir. But they're claiming to be from something called Project Blue Book Revival. They say they detected the quantum event and are authorized to assume command of the facility." Hammond paled visibly. "That's impossible. Blue Book was shut down decades ago." "Apparently not," Reeves grimaced. "I have heard rumors. A black ops division that monitors potential extraterrestrial activity. Off the books, deniable assets." Torque slammed a clawed hand on the table. "You have a secret organization monitoring for aliens, and you didn't think to mention this earlier? While talking to an actual alien, I thought they were just conspiracy theories." Hammond protested. "How long until they breach the facility?" Powell asked the security officer. 20 minutes, maybe less. They have serious hardware up there." Torque stood abruptly. "This complicates matters. If these Blue Book operatives acquire me or my technology, the contamination spreads. The purification radius will expand accordingly." "Meaning what?" Reeves demanded. "Meaning instead of just this facility, the Zinthri might decide to cleanse the entire region. Perhaps your whole continent, depending on how far the knowledge spreads." "We need to move now," Powell decided. "Get the alien and his tech to the secondary lab. It's not on the main blueprints. We could buy some time." Hammond looked torn, but finally nodded. "Do it. I will try to stall them when they arrive." The secondary laboratory was smaller, but better equipped than Torque had expected. Clearly, these humans conducted their most sensitive experiments here, away from official oversight. "This might actually work in our favor," Torque mused, examining the equipment. "Your quantum displacement research is crude but innovative. With these tools and the salvageable components from my ship, I can definitely build a targeted communication device." Powell was already clearing space on a workbench. "Tell me what you need." As they worked side by side, Torque found himself unexpectedly impressed by the human scientist. She grasped complex concepts quickly and had an intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics that belied her species' technological limitations. "You know," he commented as they calibrated a delicate crystal array, "you'd make a decent Zinthri researcher. That adaptive problem-solving, it's quite remarkable." "Was that an actual compliment?" Powell asked, raising an eyebrow. "Merely an empirical observation," Torque replied, though his face ridges flushed a deeper blue. "Your species compensates for technological deficiencies with impressive mental flexibility." Speaking of flexibility, Powell said, carefully adjusting a component, "I'm curious. What did you mean earlier about the thing between my legs?" Torque nearly dropped the crystalline processor he was holding. Zinthri are naturally unclothed. Our scales provide sufficient protection and thermal regulation. The concept of fabric coverings, especially the strange bifurcated tubes that contain your lower limbs, is foreign to us. So you have been watching our planet for months, and you never noticed pants?" Powell asked incredulously. "My surveillance was focused on technological developments, not fashion," Torque said defensively. "And the resolution on biological subjects was intentionally reduced for privacy protocols." Powell smiled. "Privacy protocols. How considerate of you while spying on our entire planet." "Observation, not spying," Torque corrected primly. "And yes, the Zinthri collective respects biological privacy even during surveillance. We are not barbarians." Their work was interrupted by Captain Reeves entering the lab, his expression grim. "They're inside the main facility. Hammond is stalling, but it won't last long. These Blue Book people, they're not standard military. Their commander is someone named General Wayland, and he's quoting classified executive orders that even I have never heard of. How much longer do you need?" Powell asked Torque. The alien examined their makeshift communication device. "The hardware is assembled, but I still need to program the quantum encryption sequence. 10 minutes minimum." "You might not have 10 minutes, Reeves warned. "They're sweeping the facility systematically. It won't take them long to find this lab." Powell made a quick decision. Keep working, she told Torque. Captain, you and I need to create a diversion. What kind of diversion? Reeves asked skeptically. The loud, explodey kind, Powell replied, already moving toward a storage cabinet. Remember that unstable isotope research from last year? We still have the samples. Reeves's eyes widened. Doctor, those materials are incredibly dangerous. So, is having our atoms disassembled by alien purification protocols, she countered, removing a sealed container from the cabinet. This is just a small sample, enough for a controlled energy release in the East Wing. It will draw their attention and buy us time. Torque watched with newfound respect as the human scientists prepared their diversion. Perhaps these primitive beings had more potential than the standard Zinthery assessment suggested. General Alton Wayland had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. 3 decades of being ridiculed behind his back, of operating with minimal budgets and skeleton crews, all while knowing, absolutely knowing, that humanity was not alone in the universe. Now, striding through the compromised research facility with his elite team of operatives, he felt a cold satisfaction. The quantum energy spike their monitoring stations had detected was unmistakable. Non-terrestrial technology had interfaced with the facility's experiments. Sir, his second-in-command reported, we have secured the main laboratory and detained the local personnel. Director Hammond claims the energy surge was just a failed experiment. And the readings? Wayland asked calmly, consistent with theoretical models for interdimensional transit. Something came through, sir. Wayland nodded. Where's Dr. Powell? The project lead, unaccounted for, along with their head of security. Before Wayland could respond, an explosion rocked the facility, distant but substantial enough to shake dust from the ceiling. East Wing breach, someone shouted over the comm, some kind of radiation release. Secure the contamination, Wayland ordered. Hazmat protocols. And keep searching for Powell. Whatever came through that portal, she knows where it is. The explosion had worked perfectly. Torque watched on the security monitors as the human military units redirected to the East Wing, giving him precious additional minutes to complete the encryption sequence. There, he said finally, activating the makeshift communication device. Transmitting now on secure Zinthery emergency frequency. The device hummed, crystalline components glowing with an inner blue light as it sent its quantum-encrypted message through subspace. Now what? Powell asked, having returned from setting her diversion. Now we wait, Torque replied. Either my commander responds, or those military humans find us, or my people detect unauthorized technology and vaporize us all. It's quite exciting, really. So many possible outcomes. Powell stared at him. You have a strange definition of exciting. Occupational hazard of xenological research, Torque shrugged. You develop an appreciation for novel situations. The communication device suddenly pulsed and emitted a series of tones that made no sense to human ears, but caused Torque's spine ridges to stiffen. Well, Reeves demanded. It's Admiral Voltalk, Torque said, listening intently. He's not pleased, but he's pragmatic. He's dispatching a stealth extraction vessel. Arrival in 30 minutes. We need to be on the surface with all traces of my technology. 30 minutes. Reeves looked at the security monitors, showing Blue Book operatives methodically searching the facility. That's cutting it close. There's a maintenance shaft that leads directly to the surface, Powell said. We can bypass most of the search teams. And what about the alien technology in the main lab? Reeves asked. We can't leave it for Blue Book to find. Torque considered this. The communication device will need to come with us for the extraction signal. As for the remnants of my ship, he pressed several sequences on his wrist device. I have just activated the emergency decomposition protocol. In 10 minutes, the molecular bonds will destabilize, converting the remains to base elements, mostly carbon and silicon. Nothing identifiable as alien technology. Convenient, Reeves remarked. Standard feature, Torque replied. We are very careful about technological contamination. Powell gathered the communication device. Let's move. We need to reach the surface access point before. The lab door suddenly slid open, revealing a stern-faced man in a black tactical uniform flanked by armed operatives. His silver hair and commanding presence immediately identified him as someone accustomed to authority. Before I arrived, the man suggested coolly, "Dr. Powell, Captain Reeves, I'm General Wayland." And this, his eyes fixed on Torque, must be our visitor. The standoff was tense. Blue Book operatives with raised weapons faced off against Reeves, who had drawn his own sidearm. Powell stood protectively near Torque, who seemed remarkably calm for someone at the center of a potential interspecies incident. "General Wayland," Powell said evenly, "whatever you think you are doing, you need to stop. You have no idea what's at stake here." "On the contrary, Doctor," Wayland replied, "I understand precisely what's at stake. First confirmed contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence, the single most significant event in human history, and also potentially the last event in human history," Torque interjected, "if we don't reach the surface in the next 25 minutes for extraction." Wayland studied the alien with undisguised fascination. "Extraordinary. And you believe your people are coming for you? They're not coming for social visit," Torque said bluntly. "Either they extract me cleanly, with no trace of my presence remaining, or they implement purification protocols to eliminate contamination." "Threats?" Wayland raised an eyebrow. "Facts," Torque corrected. "The Zinthri have protected this galaxy from premature technological contamination for millennia. They are extremely thorough." Powell stepped forward. "General, I know this is the discovery of a lifetime, but right now, we need to focus on getting him out of here before his people decide we are all a liability. And I'm just supposed to let the most significant intelligence asset in human history walk away?" Wayland asked incredulously. Torque sighed dramatically. "Your species' limited perspective is showing, General. I am not an intelligence asset. I'm a mid-level reconnaissance officer who made a navigational error. The information I possess would be meaningless to you, like trying to teach quantum physics to a Paleolithic human. Certain developmental stages cannot be skipped without catastrophic consequences." "He's right," Powell added. "Whatever you think you could learn from him, it's not worth the risk." For a long moment, Wayland seemed to wrestle with his options. Finally, his shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly. 20 years I have run Blue Book," he said quietly. 20 years waiting for proof that we are not alone. And now you are telling me I have to let it walk away." "If it helps," Torque offered, "you won't have to wait much longer. Your species is approaching the threshold for contact, perhaps another century, assuming you don't destroy yourselves first. That's practically tomorrow in galactic terms." Something in Wayland's expression shifted. "A century? I can live with that timeline." He lowered his weapon and gestured for his team to do the same. "What do you need?" The night air was cool on the desert surface as they emerged from the facility's hidden access point. Stars blazed overhead in the clear sky, more vivid away from city lights. "Ironic," Torque commented as they waited. "My ancestors navigated by stars like these. Now, we bend space around them." Powell checked her watch. 3 minutes until your extraction window. They had reached an uneasy alliance with Wayland, who had provided surface clearance and established a perimeter to keep the area secure. The general himself stood a short distance away, memorizing every detail of the alien's appearance. "What will happen to you?" Powell asked Torque. "Will you be punished for the protocol breach? Probably reassigned to an even more tedious observation post." Torque replied with a shrug. "Perhaps monitoring gas giants for atmospheric fluctuations. But I violated protocols through accident, not intent, so execution is unlikely." "That's reassuring," Powell said uncertainly. "Your quantum research," Torque said, changing the subject. "It's impressively advanced for your technological level. Dangerously so, in fact. Is that why you were monitoring us specifically?" Torque nodded. "Dimensional manipulation before proper understanding of consequences is how the Krellians accidentally erased their own star system. Not an experience the galaxy wishes to see repeated." "Should we stop our research?" Powell asked, concerned. "Slow it down," Torque suggested. "Focus on theoretical models before practical applications. Walk before you run. as your saying goes. A faint humming became audible, growing louder as a distortion appeared in the air above them. The star seemed to bend around a void that gradually took shape. A sleek vessel, smaller than Powell had expected, hovering silently 20 feet above the desert floor. My ride, Torque said unnecessarily. Powell felt a sudden reluctance to see him go. Despite the bizarre circumstances, she had enjoyed their brief collaborative work on the communication device. There was something uniquely satisfying about scientific exchange across species boundaries. "Will I remember this?" she asked suddenly. "Or does your extraction include some kind of memory wipe?" Torque looked surprised. Memory manipulation is considered highly unethical by Zinthari standards. Your memories are your own. His expression grew thoughtful. However, I should warn you that detailed knowledge of extraterrestrial contact is often dismissed as delusion by your species. Your own social structures may effectively suppress the truth without any intervention from us. Convenience system, Powell remarked. Indeed, evolution is remarkably efficient. Torque hesitated, then extended his four-fingered hand in what was clearly an attempt at a human gesture. "It was not entirely unpleasant working with you, Dr. Powell. Your species has potential." Powell shook his hand, noting the cool, smooth texture of his scales. "High praise, I'm sure." A beam of light extended from the ship, bathing Torque in a soft blue glow. He stepped toward it, then paused and turned back. "Oh, and about those genes of yours," he said with what might have been a Zinthari smile. "Utterly impractical design. When your species achieves interstellar travel, consider more sensible attire." With that parting shot, he stepped into the light and was gone, rising rapidly into the ship, which promptly vanished. Not with a dramatic flash, but simply ceasing to distort the space it had occupied, as if it had never been there at all. Powell stood watching the now normal night sky, aware of General Wayland approaching. "So that's it?" the general asked, a mixture of disappointment and wonder in his voice. "Humanity's first official alien encounter, and all we get is fashion advice." Powell smiled. "Maybe that's all we were ready for. The official record will show a contained radiation leak from an experimental quantum physics test," Wayland said. "Nothing more." "And unofficially?" Powell asked. Wayland gazed up at the stars. "Unofficially, Dr. Powell, we keep looking up. And we prepare. 1 century. I intend to hold them to that timeline." As they walked back toward the facility, Powell couldn't help but wonder what other eyes might be watching Earth from the darkness between those distant points of light, and what they might think of creatures strange enough to encase their lower limbs in tubes of woven plant fibers. Humans, after all, might be the most alien life forms in the galaxy. 3 months later, in the observation chamber of the Zinthari flagship Eternal Vigilance, Admiral Voltok reviewed Lieutenant Kavar's report with a mixture of amusement and irritation. "So you maintain that your direct contact with the humans had minimal contamination impact?" the Admiral asked, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Minimal and contained," Torque confirmed. "The humans involved understand the importance of secrecy, and their own social structures ensure any claims of alien contact are dismissed as fantasy. And you believe their quantum research has been appropriately redirected?" Torque nodded confidently. "Dr. Powell has subtly shifted their focus to theoretical models rather than practical applications. My assessment suggests they will develop the technology safely within acceptable parameters, eventually." Admiral Voltok made a sound that might have been a sigh. "Very well, Lieutenant. Given the circumstances, I'm inclined to consider the matter resolved. However, your new assignment will reflect the need for additional caution in future missions." Torque tensed, expecting the worst. "You are hereby reassigned as cultural liaison for the Earth Monitoring Station. Your direct contact experience, however unauthorized, provides valuable insight. You will continue observing human development, with particular attention to their quantum research programs." Torque blinked in surprise. "A promotion, not punishment?" "Thank you, Admiral. May I ask one question?" "Proceed." "The standard assessment places humans approximately 1 century from contact eligibility. Given my observations, I wonder if that timeline might be conservative." Voltok's mouth ridges twitched in what passed for a zinthery smile. That assessment was intentionally provided to the human military officer. The actual projection is closer to 50 years, assuming continued development. Sometimes, Lieutenant, managing expectations is as important as managing technology. As Torque left the Admiral's chamber, he found himself oddly looking forward to his new assignment. The humans, with their bizarre clothing, contradictory behaviors, and surprising adaptability, were far more interesting than he had initially believed, particularly Dr. Powell. Perhaps in 50 years, a mere moment in galactic terms, he might have the opportunity to ask her again about those strange genes and what exactly that thing between her legs really did. For now, he would watch and wait, and perhaps drop a few more breadcrumbs to guide humanity toward the stars. After all, the galaxy could use more innovative thinkers, even ones with unusual fashion choices.